Hello, I'm Jim Roberts. I'm host of Senior Living in Alexandria. This is a monthly program put on by Senior Services of Alexandria. We work with information for seniors, of course, but also useful information for family, friends, caregivers, service providers, those in the community that have an interest or a stake in working with the seniors in our community. We have an interesting program today on a program that I think many of you will deal with, and that's in terms of housing. As you realize, there are a lot of different options that are available and ways to approach that, and as you become a senior, you need to make some of these choices. I'm here with Lindsay Hutter. She's been on this program before, but she's here to tell us today about housing options and home improvements. This will be a speaker series in the regular Senior Services of Alexandria in February, but today she's going to give us a refresher. Lindsay, tell us a little bit about what are some of the issues that seniors confront in housing, and then if you could swing into what are some of the options that they're facing to do that, please.
I would be glad to do that, and I want to start with planning before housing.
Okay.
And that's because so often most of us want to think in the ideal, that when we reach near the end of life, we will take whatever steps we need to, and that it's all going to work out on our terms and our timing.
Delay, don't plan.
And so I'd really want to encourage the viewers to focus on planning.
Mm-hmm.
That will help them make housing decisions. And what do I mean by planning? So ask yourself the question, what would I like the next 20, 30 years of my life as I age and get older? What would I like them to be? Would I want to live them in my home? Would I at some point want to think about moving into a senior living community where I'd have some support around me?
Mm-hmm.
Would I want to age in place and have support that comes around me if I choose to age in place in my home? Other questions you want to think about. What if I fall and all of a sudden I'm not able to get around anymore? I can't go to the grocery store, I can't get myself to doctor's appointments, and maybe that is a permanent situation for me, or maybe it is a temporary situation, but I'm going to need some therapy and some rehabilitation. What if something happens and for a short period of time I'm not able to live in my home? I need to live in an assisted living environment.
Temporary arrangement.
And so begin with the planning and think through what are the different scenarios that could happen. What are the scenarios that you've seen happen with older loved ones in your life, neighbors or friends, or maybe others in your church? And then say, how would I handle it if that happened to me? What planning would I need to take today to make sure that if something like that happens, I'm able to have the care that I need in the environment that I want to be in?
So planning, and you create this massive array of terrible and wonderful things that can happen to you, and you're confronted with that, and as you indicate, you make choices. What are some of the choices that are available?
So there are many choices in the Northern Virginia region and for the residents of Alexandria, and that number of choices is actually growing, Jim.
Oh.
So
Okay.
let's start with what most people know, and that's moving into a retirement community. There are very different types of retirement communities. There are some which are purely independent or residential living, where you might have a common dining room, a game room, some common areas, but you don't have care partners or a nursing component.
You're independent living within
You're
a group
independent
setting.
living in a group setting.
Okay.
Another model is assisted living. And this is where you need some assistance with activities of daily living. This might be bathing, this might be medication management, this might be going to the bathroom. And you will get assistance for those needs. Many of the communities that are purely assisted living also have a memory care component. Then you have what are called life plan communities or continuing care retirement communities. So think of the continuum of living. You begin with independent or residential living. You might need to move to a higher level of living, such as assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing or long-term care. The organization that I work for, Goodwin House Incorporated, operates 2 full life plan communities that serve the whole continuum.
Okay.
We're privileged.
That's on a residential basis.
That is on a
whereby
residential
you're an
basis.
occupant of those 2 facilities.
You become part of the communities.
Gotcha. Okay.
We then have a different type of service, And we innovated this in 2014, and it's for older adults that say, I want to age in my home. I want to age in place. And I realize that at some point I may need some support to come around me, some support to help coordinate things with my house, support for my daily living. I might need assistance with those activities of daily living. Goodwin House at Home is a service that makes that possible and also has a benefit that if our members of Goodwin House at Home would need to move into assisted living, that their membership and their monthly fees have provided for that coverage to be included in their Goodwin House at Home membership.
So rather than being in a residential setting, I need to sell my house, pack up my goods, move to a facility like Goodwin House. Instead, you can stay in your home, but there's a wide array of services and a wide, I suppose, therefore, a wide a range of arrangements and costs that go with that. How do you tailor that vast menu to the individual?
Right. So we have essentially 6 different contract options.
Oh, okay.
So individuals may come in and say, I want all the services you can provide for me, and I want all the care benefits that you can provide for me. Others may say, I'm going to pick a more modest plan, which might not have as many services, but it might be a more affordable price point for those individuals. And something that's very important in all this is one of the first things we do for Goodwin House at Home members, and that's a home assessment, where we bring in a professional who can walk through the house and say, what are some changes that are important to make so this home is age friendly? So you will avoid an unnecessary fall or you'll avoid an unnecessary accident. Falls are still the number one reason that you see a decline in the quality of lives for older adults.
I think we're going to have to go to a break right now, so save that and we'll come back and talk a little bit more in depth about how those services are provided. So sit tight, we'll be right back. Well, once again, here we are. Madison Reeder is here. As those of you that tune into this program regularly know what a history she's created of good nutrition, good diet, and good food. And so once again, we've got another food adventure for us today. Madison, what is it today? Your audience wants to know.
You're going to love this one. I feel bad even calling it a recipe. It's that simple to make. But these are my everyday breakfast potatoes.
Breakfast potatoes.
Yes. So I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania where hash browns and home fries are king, right?
Okay.
And hash browns and home fries are usually made with a lot of butter, a lot of oil, and they're usually deep fried. Don't get me wrong, they're delicious, but they are anything but a healthy start to your day. So I wanted to kind of give you the flavor and the excitement of a breakfast potato, but make it even easier to make and also nutritious as well. So you see I've got a tool here. This is an air fryer. I will explain how to make these in the air fryer, but I'll also talk about ways you can make them on the stovetop or in the oven as well.
Oh, good.
Yes, because you don't need an air fryer to make these delicious. So without further ado, I like to use a Yukon Gold potato for my breakfast potatoes. Now, many places will use a russet potato. A Yukon Gold has a little bit of a sweetness to it. It's a very smooth potato on the inside. So I think that it does really, really well for breakfast in the morning.
Okay.
And it cooks up really, really nicely. So we're going to use the Yukon Gold potatoes. I chop them into chunks. I try to make sure they're relatively the same size, but it's okay if they're not. So I just chop them depending on how many you want or how many people you're cooking for.
So the recipe doesn't necessarily, you can put you could feed the 10 people for the football game or just have them in your own private way.
That's right.
Okay.
So you could use like a small potato like this, have it for your breakfast, one and done, or you could make, what I'll usually do in my household, I will dice up a couple of potatoes, toss them in our seasoning, which I'll explain in a second here, and then I have them for the whole week.
Oh,
so then what
wow.
I'll do is each day I'll reheat them either in my air fryer here on the stovetop, but super easy, but you can do one at a time or multiple.
Okay.
So once they're diced up, the next important thing, this is a little bit of an out-of-the-box trick, but I really like it. I'll take some cooking spray. It doesn't matter what kind of cooking spray. I like an olive oil one. I like the flavor that it provides. And I will just shake that and spritz them just a little bit. So now your potatoes, you can see here, they're moist on the inside, and whatever seasoning you put on will stick to that part, but a lot of times the skin then doesn't get any love. So I'll just spritz just a little bit.
And that's to get the seasoning to stick?
Get the seasoning to
Aha.
stick, and it helps them to get a little bit
Cooking
crispy.
trick.
Yes, a little bit
Cooking
crispy without adding a lot of extra fat. This adds very little fat and 0 calories.
0. All right.
So I'll add a little spritz of that, and then the next thing that I'll do is I will add this seasoning. This is called everything but the bagel seasoning.
Everything but the bagel.
Everything but the bagel. So
I
it's
see.
all the goodness of an everything bagel in a seasoning. There are sesame seeds, poppy seeds, onion, a little salt, and garlic in here. You can buy this, you can see here, at any major retailer. Trader Joe's has it, all your big box stores, and now your regular grocery stores are having it there as well in the spice aisles. So I will add a couple of teaspoons or tablespoons. I like them very well coated. The more flavor, the better, to my potatoes. So this is about, I would say, maybe 2 tablespoons here, and then I'll
Okay.
give them a toss so that they're coated all the way around. And then I'll add
You
a
might
little bit more.
accidentally pick up your cookie sprinkle jar.
I
That
know,
would be-
they
that would not
do
be
look
good.
very much like sprinkles,
do.
but
They're
very
very
different.
decorative.
That's all there is to it. So with the air fryer, the next thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna set the heat to about 350 degrees, and I'll set my timer to 20 minutes. What's really important, if you do make this in an air fryer, this is key. In the fryer basket, although the basket is tall, there's only this much ground, I call it ground space here. You want to make sure that your potatoes are laying evenly among this space in the bottom. So if they start to overlap, they won't get evenly crispy. That's okay if you want to stop it halfway through, toss them, but a lot of times people don't like to do that. They want to put the fryer basket in, turn on the air fryer, and go.
So basically, an air fryer is a non-fat way of frying stuff.
Exactly. An
I
air
see.
fryer works very similarly to a small convection oven.
Okay.
It heats the air very quickly. There's a coil on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows the whatever you put in the air fryer basket to be heated on multiple sides. You can see there's grooves here, there's spaces in the bottom, to be heated very quickly on all sides, which almost gives it a fried effect. So it gets crispy as if you had deep fried them without doing so.
And that avoids all of the fats or the
Correct.
grease or the whatever. That's
Correct.
ingenious.
Correct. You don't even need to spray the bottom of this. You can just put your potatoes right in.
And it's good nutrition. Okay.
Exactly. And I, like I said, set it to 350 degrees for 20 minutes. I will, after that 20 minutes, I don't just say, okay, we're completely done. I will check them first, make sure that they seem crispy on all sides. And if they are, then they're good to go. Sometimes they need a little bit more time depending on how new or old your potato is, how much water your potato has.
Sure.
So I always check them. Now, if you don't make it in the air fryer, all is not lost. I love to make these on the stovetop too, using my nonstick cooking spray, but they do take a while on the stovetop. Here's my tip for stovetop potatoes that are perfect without adding any extra oil. It sounds crazy, but take a little bit of a cooking stock, a chicken or a beef stock, the smallest little bit, and you're gonna wanna just put a little bit in the pan that's almost gonna act as your oil. And you just have to watch your potatoes, keep turning them every so many minutes with, your rubber scraper or your spatula, and add a little bit more oil if you find that they're crisping too quickly, but they're not cooking through in the middle. And you can see the color changes on your potatoes. Add a little bit more stock, and it keeps you from adding oil, but having them still get crispy.
How long do you cook them in an air fryer?
About 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit more.
And then you can judge it if you're on the stovetop. Okay.
Correct, exactly.
Okay.
I'd say it almost takes maybe a little bit longer on the stovetop because you don't want to put your heat up too high. I'd do it about a medium heat.
And just poke them with a fork if
And that's
they're
how,
tender. I got it.
exactly.
Okay.
If you put them on high heat on the stovetop, they will cook, but the outsides will get crispy much sooner than the inside. And then sometimes they're a little bit too crispy on the outside, a little bit too burnt. So with all that being said, now that I've talked to you about these potatoes, let's give them a try.
Okay.
So you can see this is what they look like when they're done. You can see they've gotten crisp on all these different sides. And like I said, what I'll do each day, pop them back in the air fryer, heat them up, and they get crispy all over again.
We'll try some of these.
Yes, please do.
Okay. Help yourself.
Thank you.
Ooh, that's nice. That's very good. I'm not
Thank you.
familiar with that spice. That's a neat spice.
It's newer but very popular, and it's taking the nutrition world by storm for sure.
I never can draw a conclusion with one only.
Got to try multiple to make sure you love it.
It's good.
Good.
It's good.
Good. Well, thank you for having me again.
Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
For our Community Minute today, we will discuss care coordination. We understand as we age, we can develop health conditions. One of the benefits in the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus CCC Plus program is care coordination. Care coordination is to help you understand and control your health conditions. One of our care coordinators, our nurses or social workers, they can educate you about your health care, work with your primary care provider to help answer medical questions, coordinate with your primary care provider to assist with referrals to specialists, ensure continuity of care between providers, help with special equipment and home health requests. Our integrated care coordination program helps with your Medicaid, behavioral, and social needs. It provides you with acute, chronic, and long-term services and support. Our care manager, Sarah, will talk to you more about care coordination.
Hello, I'm Sarah Kobus. Everyone who becomes enrolled in the CCC Plus program has a care coordinator. We, as care coordinators, will reach out to you via phone or mail and sometimes may come to your home. We are nurses, licensed practical counselors, social workers, or people who have a bachelor's degree in a health-related field. Our primary goal is to assist you with navigating your health benefits and working on your health goals. Some objectives we commonly will assist you with include finding and scheduling an appointment with a primary care provider or specialist, using your benefits to obtain glasses or hearing aids, and getting the help you need to maintain your health.
Well, we're back. I'm here with Lindsay Hutter. She's the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer of Goodwin House Incorporated, and she's with us today to talk about housing options that are available to seniors and how those might be customized and delivered and provided. And as she mentioned, there's a variety of options and how they do that. One of the things we didn't cover before the break was what the range of services are that might be available generally through the various housing options. Can you give us a little bit of insight of how that works in this metropolitan area? What are the choices? If I were shopping, what services could I begin to look at?
So one of the things that you'd want to think about is, do I want to be in more of an independent living community, or are my needs such that I might like some assistance, or perhaps I need memory care services and support.
Okay.
So as a starting place, if you're thinking about moving into a community or you need to move into a community, you'd want to know what's the level of living where I am right now and what are my needs right now. And you can frankly go online and say, assisted living communities, Alexandria, Virginia, skilled nursing,
Okay.
Alexandria, Virginia, on whatever happens to be your web browser. You also have the opportunity to avail yourself of different nonprofit organizations that are very knowledgeable about senior living and healthcare services and other services for older adults, like Senior Services of Alexandria. Goodwin House Incorporated has been in the business of serving older adults for 52 years, and we have treasured the relationship we have with Senior Services of Alexandria. And they have their Meals on Wheels and other connection programs that they deliver. So there's also an opportunity for an older adult to go online, or a loved one of an older adult to go online and say, what are support services for older adults in Alexandria. And that range of support services could help open up the option for older adults who say, I do want to age in place. From time to time, I may need some volunteers to help me with some light housework or help me with my computer. And there are various programs that provide those services. And again, if you go online in your web browser and just say support services for older adults, in Alexandria, we're very fortunate. You will see a lot of resources come to bear. And again, Senior Services of Alexandria is one of the best.
It strikes me that there are a range of alternatives, quite willing and happy to provide services, and that's valuable, but there's a link. You've got an individual, say, living at home, maybe they're alone, maybe they're a couple, and they say, you know, we're vaguely uneasy or we're scared, one or the other, and they say, how, and you mentioned the assessment for safety, which I think is critical, but is that also an extensive interview? Here's a whole checklist of things you could do and a whole list of people that could provide them, but now you need to know enough to make some decisions. Is that part of the initial intake interview or the conversation you have?
If you're referencing Goodwin House at Home as an example, and it's for older adults, singles or couples that have that apprehension about the future, they'd like to stay in their home, but they're not sure if that's going to be a wise move for them, yes, with our program, Goodwin House at Home, we do a complete assessment and a complete interview of them. And that includes what are their current medical needs and what are their current medical conditions.
And that you're able to help them as your needs change. We have a different part of the menu you can look at and pick from that. And as you grow or your needs change, we can accommodate that? Is that part of it?
Yes. And I'll tell you that when we first launched Goodwin House at Home in 2014, and there are not many of these in the country, and we're the only one in the National Capital Region.
Oh, okay.
So we really sought to innovate in this way and respond to the baby boomers who've said, in droves, we want to age in place to the extent that we can. And what we thought at the beginning was that there are two types of older adults. Those who said, I'm never going to move into a retirement community, I want to age in my home, and I frankly want to be carried out. And then the other category of older adults who said, at some point, I will move into a senior living community or a retirement community. And what we found out was there's a third category. There are actually those who say, I want to age in place as long as I can, but at some point, I'd like to move into a senior living community. And we make that possible for them to do that, whether they choose to move into a Goodwin House community or they choose to move into another senior living community. Their Goodwin House at Home membership benefit conveys regardless to the community that they choose.
This will be a hard question, but I still have to ask it. What's the philosophy of pricing services? I mean, and I know you've outlined a lot of stuff, but what are the principles that say, you know, is it an hourly charge? Is it a per visit? Is it a menu that we agree on for a while and then reevaluate in a period of time? Or is it all of those? What are the, and then secondly, related to that, does insurance cover any of this?
So I'm going to answer that in two contexts. And the first is just generally across the marketplace. If you're an older adult or the loved one of an older adult and you are wanting to learn more and explore what are the services from home health care to home health to maybe some help around the house with raking, with
gutters,
those sorts of things. That all depends on the business provider that you would select.
Okay.
And their approach to, is it going to be an hourly fee? And usually they have a minimum, a minimum number of hours that you would need to contract for every day. So it really depends on the independent provider. With Goodwin House at Home, we have a dedicated member services facilitator for every Goodwin House at Home member. And this person is available to you 24/7. So if in the middle of the night you get up to go get a glass of water and you fall, you can call your member services facilitator and that person will meet you at the hospital. They'll coordinate an ambulance. They will do everything. We've had situations where a member has fallen, they might have a pet, and they need to be hospitalized. Who's going to take care of the pet? That member services facilitator not only coordinates assistance with the medical care, but also whatever needs to be done on the home front. So we call that, we're one phone call. Now, in terms of any additional services that someone may want, let's say someone did have a fall and they are able to go back to their home, but they want to have someone now do the yard work. We will help find that service. They can select which firm they want. They would pay them directly for that third-party service. But we'll help do all the coordination and take that headache and hassle away.
I understand some of those services are provided by volunteers, therefore low cost if
Yes.
zero, and some are in fact part of a professional service organization. Are those options presented or thought through as part of the package?
For any citizen in Alexandria or across the region, any older adult, there are what are often called at-home in name of the city programs
Okay.
or village programs. These are membership-based programs. There's a modest membership fee, and you're able to access volunteers who can come into your house and help. And so that is often a preferred option for older adults, and it may be the most affordable option for older adults to choose that rather than a program like Goodwin House at Home, which is going to provide more guarantees.
Are there some unique things about the metropolitan area that might be different than the rest of the country?
Well, one would be the cost of health care and the cost of housing.
Okay.
So that's something in that planning. You know, when earlier we talked about the importance of planning, looking ahead and thinking about how your finances, your assets and your retirement funds can serve you. There's another consideration that's different in this region than in a lot of places in the country, and that is that for people who've owned their home, they probably have a lot of equity in their home.
True.
And if they're older, they've probably seen tremendous growth in the value of their home. And that nest egg can really help them with their retirement. So those are some considerations
Assets they could draw in to make it affordable. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But I know that others will, on February 20th, as you know, you'll be one of the members of a panel at a speaker series on housing options and home improvements. So people should come to that and learn more. But it's good to at least glimpse what the options are and what are some of the things available. So really appreciate you coming in and sharing that information with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.